Most men don't end up in unhealthy relationships because they lack strength or confidence. They end up there because they don't fully understand emotional dynamics. Unawareness quietly pulls them into situations they never planned to be in. In the beginning, everything feels powerful and exciting. The attention is intense. The charm feels magnetic. The emotional connection seems deep and rare. It creates the illusion that something meaningful is forming quickly. But as time passes, clarity slowly disappears. Small doubts begin to appear. Conversations feel confusing instead of comforting. You start feeling emotionally tired rather than supported. Instead of growing as a person, you begin questioning your own reactions, your words, and even your worth. This is how emotionally unhealthy dynamics often work. They don't start with obvious problems. They start with emotional intensity that slowly turns into emotional pressure. This video is not about hating women or creating fear around relationships. And it is not about labeling every woman as narcissistic or unhealthy. That kind of thinking only creates bitterness, not wisdom. This video is about awareness. It's about one mindset that quietly protects men from emotionally draining situations. A mindset that doesn't rely on arguments, control, manipulation, or emotional games. When you adopt this mindset, something interesting happens. You stop chasing emotional approval. You stop reacting to every emotional shift. You begin observing how interactions affect your peace, clarity, and self-respect. As a result, certain women naturally lose interest, not because you did something wrong, but because unhealthy dynamics can't survive around emotional stability. And that's not a loss. That's protection. Narcissistic behavior is not always dramatic, loud, or easy to identify. In many cases, it shows up in quiet and subtle ways that feel normal at first. It can look like a constant need for attention or reassurance. Emotional moments may feel very intense one day, then suddenly distant or cold the next. Conversations often circle back to one person's feelings, struggles, or needs, while the other person listens, adjusts, and compromises. Another common pattern is difficulty accepting responsibility. Instead of accountability, there may be excuses, emotional deflection, or quiet blame. Sometimes this appears as subtle guilt or pressure, where you feel responsible for their mood without fully understanding why. This is not about diagnosing anyone or placing labels on people. Psychology focuses on patterns of behavior, not personal attacks. When certain patterns repeat, they create imbalance. One person gives time, energy, and emotional effort, while the other controls the emotional atmosphere of the relationship. Now the question is, why do so many men overlook these signs? The answer is hope. Many men believe that patience will lead to change. They tell themselves that emotional security will fix the behavior. They assume that trying harder will bring stability. They mistake emotional intensity for genuine connection. But intensity alone is not emotional health. When attraction is driven by anxiety, urgency, or fear of losing someone, clear thinking fades. Logic becomes quiet, and emotional awareness slowly disappears. Over time, men don't lose self-respect all at once. It happens gradually, through small compromises that go unnoticed. Most men don't ignore red flags because they don't see them. They ignore them because of hope. Hope convinces them that things will improve with time. It tells them that emotional instability is temporary, that patience will be rewarded, that if they stay consistent, understanding, and available, the situation will eventually become healthy. Many men believe that once a woman feels secure, her behavior will change. Others think that increasing effort will fix emotional imbalance. Some mistake emotional intensity for emotional depth, and assume that strong feelings automatically mean a strong connection. But emotional intensity is not the same as emotional health. Intensity can come from uncertainty, fear, or emotional dependency. Healthy attraction, on the other hand, feels steady, supportive, and grounded. When attraction is driven by anxiety, urgency, or fear of loss, clear thinking begins to fade. Decisions are no longer based on self-respect or long-term well-being. They are based on avoiding discomfort in the moment. In these moments, logic becomes quiet. Awareness gets replaced by emotional reactions. Men start adjusting themselves to maintain harmony, even when harmony is one-sided. This is how self-respect slowly erodes, not through one big mistake, but through many small compromises. Each time boundaries are ignored, it feels insignificant. But over time, those small moments add up. By the time the pattern becomes clear, emotional investment is already deep, and leaving feels harder than staying. This is why awareness matters, because hope without clarity doesn't protect you, it traps you. Here is the mindset that quietly changes everything. I don't chase emotional approval. I observe emotional consistency. This single shift moves a man out of emotional reaction and into awareness. Instead of being pulled into every mood, message, or emotional fluctuation, he steps back and watches patterns over time. Observation replaces urgency. Clarity replaces confusion. Most men enter relationships asking the wrong question. They ask, how do I keep her interested? That question puts their emotional stability in someone else's hands. It turns attraction into a performance, instead of a mutual experience. The healthier question is different. How does this interaction affect my peace, my clarity, and my self-respect? This question centers you. It measures the relationship by its impact on your life, not by how intense it feels in the moment. When you stop chasing emotional approval, something important happens. You no longer reward inconsistency. You don't rush to fix emotional distance. You don't overextend yourself to regain attention. Narcissistic patterns rely on pursuit. They need emotional chasing to maintain control over the dynamic. Attention, reassurance, and constant validation keep the imbalance alive. But when chasing ends, the pattern loses its power. There is no argument, no confrontation, no dramatic exit. The dynamic simply collapses on its own. What remains is calm, grounded presence. Emotionally healthy people respond to this with respect and consistency. Emotionally unhealthy patterns fade away, not because you pushed them out, but because they no longer work. This mindset doesn't harden you. It protects you. With this mindset, everything in a relationship changes. You no longer feel the need to rush to fix emotional swings. When moods rise and fall, you observe instead of reacting. You give space without guilt. You let emotions settle naturally, without trying to manipulate or control them. You don't over-explain yourself. You don't justify every word or action. Your time and energy are not spent convincing someone of your worth. Instead, your calm, quiet presence communicates confidence and self-respect. You don't panic when attention changes. When someone withdraws emotionally, you don't chase or beg. You understand that attention is not a currency you must earn at all costs. You allow interactions to flow naturally, without forcing connection or validation. In fact, your calmness is more than a personal practice. It is a psychological test. Emotionally unhealthy individuals, those who rely on manipulation or inconsistency, feel uneasy around stability. They cannot control or predict it. They are used to uncertainty, drama, and emotional chasing. Your grounded presence exposes that pattern. It reveals who can handle consistency and who cannot. It separates emotional maturity from chaos without confrontation or conflict. By staying calm, grounded, and instant, you protect yourself. You maintain clarity in your choices. You preserve your self-respect. And you attract only those who respond to stability, not drama. Ultimately, this mindset is not about control or manipulation. It is about creating an environment where your emotional health is prioritized, and that environment naturally filters out patterns that are unhealthy or draining. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many think they are punishments, or a way to push someone away, but the truth is very different. Boundaries are simply information. They communicate what is acceptable and what is not in a relationship. They tell others how you expect to be treated, without needing to argue, control, or manipulate. When you say no calmly, you are not being harsh. You are setting a limit that protects your peace and your priorities. When you take space without guilt, you are showing that your emotional health matters, and that relationships should not come at the cost of your clarity. Maintaining your routine and pursuing your personal goals demonstrates consistency and self-respect. Healthy individuals recognize and respect these boundaries. They understand that limits do not mean rejection. They mean clarity. Boundaries guide interactions and create trust, as both people know what is safe and what is not. Unhealthy individuals, on the other hand, resist boundaries. They feel uncomfortable with limits, because it challenges their ability to control the emotional dynamic. They may try to push, guilt, or manipulate, but your calm and consistent boundaries quietly expose their intentions. You do not need confrontation to test character. You do not need arguments or drama. Boundaries act as a filter, showing who can engage in a relationship with mutual respect and who cannot. Ultimately, boundaries are a tool for protection, awareness, and clarity. They maintain your self-respect and emotional stability, while naturally revealing the character of those around you. Setting them is not selfish, it is essential. Healthy attraction is different from the emotional chaos many people mistake for connection. It feels calm, not chaotic. You don't wake up each day wondering what mood or reaction you might face. There is a sense of stability that allows both people to feel secure and valued, rather than constantly anxious or drained. Support is natural, not forced. Each person contributes in ways that lift the other up. It's not one-sided effort or emotional labor that leaves someone exhausted. Instead, both individuals give and receive, creating a balanced dynamic where growth and understanding can thrive. Consistency is key. Healthy attraction doesn't swing wildly from intense passion to sudden withdrawal. Communication flows openly, honestly, and without fear. Conversations don't feel like walking on eggshells or trying to predict emotional explosions. Both parties can express themselves freely, while still respecting boundaries and each other's space. This type of connection isn't accidental, it is the result of grounded mindset. When you stop chasing approval, reacting to every emotional fluctuation, or tolerating instability, you naturally attract people who are emotionally mature. Instability no longer holds appeal because you no longer reward it with attention or energy. Emotional maturity responds to emotional stability. Unhealthy patterns fade away quietly because they no longer generate the reaction they depend on. Instead, relationships thrive on mutual respect, calmness, and clear communication. Ultimately, healthy attraction is about presence, balance, and security. It is a choice to maintain clarity, prioritize self-respect, and connect with people who enhance your life, rather than drain it. The goal in understanding narcissistic behavior is not to develop fear. Fear is not protection, it is a reaction that clouds judgment, creates overthinking, and keeps you trapped in patterns that you could otherwise avoid. True safety comes from awareness, clarity, and emotional grounding. Awareness allows you to see behavior objectively. You notice patterns without reacting impulsively. You understand what is healthy and what is draining. Emotional consistency becomes your measure. You begin to value steadiness over fleeting excitement and substance over superficial intensity. Clarity replaces confusion. When interactions no longer feel like emotional roller coasters, you make decisions based on reality, rather than anxiety. You see how your energy is spent, and whether it is being respected. Self-respect becomes the foundation of all choices. You no longer seek validation to feel worthy. You maintain your boundaries, your routines, and your priorities without guilt. When emotional approval is not the currency, unhealthy dynamics gradually lose their influence. Strong men don't avoid chaos by fighting it directly. They don't argue with every emotional swing or attempt to control unstable patterns. Instead, they cultivate emotional stability within themselves. Their calm presence acts as a filter, naturally revealing who can engage in a healthy way and who cannot. The patterns of manipulation, inconsistency, or control fade away on their own when they no longer trigger a reaction. Stay aware, stay calm, stay in control of your standards. This is not about fear, anger, or aggression. It is about emotional strength, clarity, and self-respect. It is about creating a life where you are grounded, stable, and surrounded by healthy, respectful connections.